So there's been a lot of talk about Valve's new Steam machine, but what if I told you that they released it over 10 years ago? Well, that would be an oversimplification because things were a lot different back in 2013. SteamOS had just been announced, the Steam for Linux client was barely out of its beta stage, and Valve was hard at work on developing what the tech press had dubbed the Steam Box, a small form factor computer designed exclusively to play Steam games. But this didn't turn out to be a single piece of hardware. Instead, it was a new platform of sorts that allowed multiple hardware manufacturers to create their own Steam boxes based on a list of specifications supplied by Valve. And by the time the first batch was revealed a year later, 14 different companies had partnered with Valve to create what became known as Steam machines. But before all of that, there was this thing, a very early model that was first unveiled by a company called Xi3 at CES 2013. And it's definitely one of the most unusual and very fascinating computers that I've gotten my hands on. So let's talk about it. Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. So a little caveat, unfortunately this computer is not technically the same thing that was demoed by Xi3 and Valve because the two companies ended up parting ways only a couple months after CES. And as a result, what became known as the Piston did not end up being one of the designs available in the first batch of Steam machines. However, what I have here is the Xi3 X7A, and it was sold to me by a viewer named Cassius, so thank you very much. This was first introduced in 2012, and it was used as a base for the Piston collaboration with Valve. In fact, the hardware between these two models is pretty much identical. The only thing setting them apart visually is the branding on the front. But the software is where things got different because the Piston demoed at CES 2013 utilized Steam's big picture mode to make the thing feel more like a console with a controller-friendly interface. It's not clear what OS it was running since they weren't saying a whole lot at the time, but if I had to guess it was probably a Linux distro, maybe even a super early unreleased version of SteamOS, since it was clear that that was the direction Valve wanted to go in. The X7A, on the other hand, shipped with either OpenSUSE or Windows, depending on the configuration you chose. And where things get confusing is that even after these two companies parted ways, Xi3 still moved forward with the launch of the Piston with the same specifications as the X7A, just branded as a game console instead of a regular computer. It was demoed again at CES 2014, this time running Windows with a controller-friendly big picture mode-like front end, as seen in this IGN video. But the $1,000 price tag got pretty ridiculed since you could just build a PC with comparable specs yourself for less than half of that. And the fact that Valve didn't have anything to do with it anymore meant that this was really just a fancy-looking small Windows box with a unique modular design, which I have to say is pretty cool. If we take out these 4 screws on either side of this thing and remove the side panel, the entire computer just slides out of its metal case. And yeah, I mean, you can see this thing looks kind of unusual for an x86 based PC. We'll go ahead and remove the I/O shield. Lots of ports on this thing, by the way. But yeah, the entire computer is actually split up onto these 3 separate cards instead of having a singular motherboard. So this bottom one here is kind of like the main card where these other 2 ones slide into. So we'll go ahead and take these off. The bottom one has the processor on it, so you can see the heatsink here. And then this one here has most of the ports, and there's also an SSD plugged into this mSATA slot. This is a 60 gig drive. And then you've got this other one here, which has, some of the other ports. And there's also another mSATA slot down here. So I guess you could add another hard drive if you wanted to. They also had external expansion options as well. They had a hard drive module you could buy that was designed to look exactly like the Xi3, and it would just slide onto the bottom here through these rails, and you could expand the storage that way as well. You could also use this to slide it onto the back of a monitor or another mount to, keep the computer out of sight. So yeah, it's a pretty cool design, and even though this thing never ended up being a Steam machine, I thought what we would do today is try and turn it into one ourselves. And speaking of turning into, today's sponsor boot.dev can turn you into somebody who knows how to program because their site walks you through everything. Whether you know just a little bit or nothing at all, they've got courses on AWS, SQL, Linux, JavaScript, Python, and more. And these are not just a bunch of boring tutorials to read through. You'll actually be doing this stuff, applying what you've learned to make sure you understand it. It's also really fun. They make the whole thing feel like a game by rewarding you with XP, giving you a leaderboard to compete on, and just making you want to come back for more. I've been taking the Python course because I've always been curious about software development, and I don't just want to vibe code my way into becoming one. Actually having an understanding of how this all works is super important and just a lot more rewarding. What I love most about boot.dev is that they back all of their courses with a 30-day, no questions asked refund policy. And on top of that, you can view everything on the site for absolutely free before you subscribe to a membership, which you can do by scanning this QR code or clicking the link below. And make sure to use code MichaelMJD at checkout to get 25% off your first payment. Okay, we got this thing all plugged in and ready to go. Before we install SteamOS on it, I did want to see if there's anything on the hard drive because this would have shipped with Windows, so I'm curious to see if, that's still on here. But you never know, maybe there'll be something super valuable on this thing. Well, it looks like we got Windows 8 or 8.1 or 10. There's no telling right now, and we'll find out in a moment. But yeah, we got a custom XI3 boot screen, so that's cool. Also, the fan on this thing just completely stopped. I'm guessing it's only going to kick on, when it needs to. But it's kind of eerie how quiet it is right now. So, okay, we have a incorrect pin. Okay, this account is in the name of the viewer who sold this to me. It's wanting me to enter a challenge phrase here because we've entered an incorrect pin several times, even though this is the first time that I've seen this screen. So we'll enter this in, and let me see if he told me what the pin was. Nope, we got nothing. Well, let's see if we can do the old setHC bypass. So I got Hiren's boot CD here, mini Windows XP. By the way, you can do this from like a Windows 10 setup CD or, like a Linux live CD. But you just basically go into the System32 folder. We're going to find CMD. We're going to copy that. We're going to find setHC.exe. We're going to rename that to .old. We're going to paste CMD. And then it pasted that as CMD2. We're going to change that to setHC.exe. So now from this screen, we can just try to turn on sticky keys by hitting the shift key 5 times. And oh, look at that. It brings up the command prompt. Isn't that nice? So we're going to run net user administrator / active yes. And yep, there we go. We can change over to administrator. We have to change the password on it. So let me bring back up CMD here. Well, net user administrator, I think you just type in the password after that. So we'll do 1234, 1234. There we go. And it's going to go through like the whole first time thing since this is the first time we're logging into this account. Oh my gosh, we want to turn all this crap off. No, thank you. And here we are on the desktop. It looks like we've got Steam installed. Let's hop into the start menu here and see if we've got anything else that wouldn't have come on here by default. Oh, it looks like we've got the AMD drivers installed. Yeah, by the way, this thing has an AMD processor with integrated graphics. There's not like a dedicated GPU. I mean, well, look at this thing. It's not like it's going to really be able to fit in here. But yeah, that's going to kind of limit you in terms of what games that you can play, which is perhaps another reason why Valve didn't really want to continue this collaboration with XI3. But yeah, it looks like we've got the AMD Catalyst Control Center. We've got Core Temp, okay. So that's something that Cassius installed, I suppose. So here's the specific model number of the processor. It's a 2-core, 4-thread CPU. It looks like it is at high load right now. Let's open up Task Manager and just see. Oh yeah, that's what is using Microsoft OneDrive. What the why? OneDrive setup is using 92% of the CPU usage. What the heck, dude? But yeah, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and then here's the SSD. So let's kill OneDrive because we don't need that like utilizing all of the CPU usage. And that really dropped it down. It also quieted the fan a little bit. Alright, I just finished my quick search of the hard drive just to make sure that there's not any like personal data or important files that I would be wiping over when I format this thing. I just like to do that to make sure in case the previous owner forgot something that they might want back. In this case, there is nothing aside from these 3 setup executables in the user's downloads folder. So we've got Chrome setup, Core Temp, and Steam setup. You can see we've got all those applications here. So yeah, that's all we got. Aside from that, it is just a stock Windows 10 installation. It's version 22H2 to be specific. So, I mean, yeah, that's good to know that we can put Windows 10 back on this thing in the future. Maybe Windows 11? I mean, who knows? We'll see. But we're going to focus on trying to get SteamOS on this for the rest of this video. And I thought it would be interesting to try and install the original beta version of SteamOS, like the one that came out in 2013, that you could just download from Valve and put on any old x86 PC. This was long before the Steam Deck, and it's actually based off of Debian instead of Arch, so it's kind of like an entirely different operating system. One important thing to note, though, is that when I was looking over the system requirements, not only does it call for a 500 gigabyte hard drive, which we don't have, it also says it needs an NVIDIA graphics adapter, which we also don't have, so there may not be any AMD drivers for this thing. This may just be a complete waste of time. Now, the 500 gig hard drive thing probably has to do with this recovery image that they had that you could download, and then like it would, I guess, write that to a hard drive, and that had to be at least 500 gigs in size. But they also had just an installer that you could download and write to a USB, and well, that's what I've got here. So yeah, let's see if it works. Alright, so here we are booted off of the USB, and we're just going to go with automated install, which will erase the entire disk. Alright, it looks to be doing its thing. It's formatting partitions right now. Oh, it's configuring NVIDIA kernel DKMs. Yeah, I wonder how this thing not having an NVIDIA GPU is going to affect things. I mean, it's able to display stuff right now just fine. I mean, we're just in the installer, but maybe it won't really be a problem. According to the website, though, there weren't even AMD drivers available, so yeah, this is going to be interesting. Okay, it has restarted, and here we are on the desktop. So it immediately comes up with the Steam install agreement. I mean, this is going to be some super old version of Steam. But yeah, we'll just click OK there, and then I will have to connect this thing to the network. So I did find an old tutorial video from back in 2013, you know, going over how to install this. And apparently, what you were supposed to do is log into your Steam account and then open up the terminal and run a post-install script. And then that would make it to where it would automatically launch into Steam Big Picture mode when you log into your account. So you wouldn't have to be brought to the desktop here and then open up Steam and go to Big Picture mode from there. Only thing is, I don't know if we're going to be able to do this because I have a feeling I'm not going to be able to log in to my Steam account on this super old version. So I'm going to plug in an Ethernet cable and hope that it recognizes the network adapter in this thing. It did, yeah, it did recognize the wired connection. We are online. Let's see if we can run Steam again and just see what happens. Oh, you got a lot of updates to go through, my friend. Also, while we're on the desktop, I do want to just explore around here a little bit and see, you know, just what stuff that we have on here. So we have on the desktop a shortcut to computer, your home folder, Steam, a Valve bug reporter, and trash. You've got activities you can go to here, get a view of all your windows, and then these are the applications. And oh, it just, the whole thing just crashed or restarted or something. What did it do? Did it launch into Big Picture mode without even signing in? Oh, it totally restarted. What? Maybe the Steam installer just restarted the system. Yeah, I guess this is the boot screen, by the way. This is my first time seeing this. That didn't show up before, so that's nice. What is it doing? Clonezilla image directory. The following step is to save the hard disk / partitions on the machine as an image. Are you sure you want to continue? Yeah, I don't know what prompted it to do this. I mean, it's wanting, I guess, to make a backup image. I mean, sure, okay, yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. Maybe it's gonna do like a system upgrade and it just wants to have a backup. Alright, clone successfully, saving hardware info, and now you can choose to, we're just gonna reboot, I guess? Okay, it says preparing hardware drivers. Yeah, I wonder if it is going through like an entire OS upgrade right now, which I don't really want it to do, but I guess it's too late for that now. Oh, it's totally doing an update. Yeah, and this is like in a full screen interface here. In fact, I wonder if it's in big picture mode right now because, I mean, this is like that little window we saw earlier. You know, if you use Steam, you're probably very familiar with it. Whenever it's doing an update, that little window that'll come up and it says extracting package, installing update, all that. Yeah, this is just like a, you know, larger version of that. So maybe it just did the big picture mode script automatically for us, but I mean, we'll see what happens. Alright, well, this doesn't look good. I think it's frozen, so we'll just give it a moment here. Alright, it's been like 10 minutes, and I don't think we're getting anywhere with this thing. Although it did say the update completed, so maybe we can just restart it again, and it'll actually be able to launch into this. Steam now requires user namespaces to be enabled. This requirement is the same for Flatpak, which has more detailed information on a GitHub page. Oh my gosh, look at the size of that cursor. Okay, so I guess we'll hit OK. It gives us the same error, cool. And I think we're caught in a loop here, so that's exciting. So yeah, I guess it gets the Steam client through Flatpak, which is like an application distribution thing, platform, whatever you want to call it, for Linux. And this is an error message that you could see when trying to launch the Steam client if you download it through Flatpak. But you know, that would be with the desktop and everything loaded. This I think confirms that it's trying to launch Steam in big picture mode right now. The only problem is, you know, there's no desktop or even command line that we can get to try and get around this. So we're just kind of caught in this loop. Okay, well, I guess we can just hit escape, because I just did. And that brought us to a command line. Press enter to continue, okay. And that brings us back here. Is there any way we can get to the desktop? That's what I would like to do. What if I yank the Ethernet cable? Let's try that and restart. Oh, it's doing an unintended upgrade now. What? Yeah, I yanked the Ethernet cable and hit the power button, and now it's going through this. So, alright, we'll let it go through what it's doing. Oh boy, well, we've made it to that part in the video where I have to take a moment and explain a whole bunch of stuff that has transpired over the past, I don't even know how long it's been now, but it's been a while, and you can probably tell by the fact that we have Windows 10 running on this thing again, that I was not able to get that SteamOS update to complete properly. And I tried it several times. I was able to get it past that error message that we were seeing, but it always resulted in getting to a point where it would just display a black screen and the monitor would keep coming on and off, which seems to me like a display driver problem, which of course makes sense considering that there wasn't even an AMD display driver available for this operating system. And like I said, I did this a few times. I confirmed that the restarting we saw all of a sudden happen, you know, when I was going into the apps and messing around. That does happen when Steam launches and starts to do the update, and the Clonezilla thing, that's normal as well. And I tried even not doing that and just, you know, skipping through it and then continuing on with the update. That didn't change anything. And after that, I said to myself, I just have to try a newer version of this operating system. So I downloaded version 2.0 of SteamOS, which was released in 2015. This was based on Debian 8, and I thought that maybe by this point they would have an AMD driver available. But it turns out that that is not the case, because essentially the exact same thing happened that we saw in 1.0. It was able to display the desktop initially, you know, when it completed the installation, but as soon as I plugged in the Ethernet cable to connect this thing to the network, it auto-launched Steam, started to go through the update process, and then restarted and went through that whole process where it launched Clonezilla. It wanted me to do an image backup. And regardless of if I went through with that or not, the system would always get to a point where it would display a black screen and the monitor would be flickering on and off indefinitely, like as though it was trying to identify a display signal and display something, but, you know, it just wasn't able to, which, yeah, seems likely that it is a driver issue. And there's not another version of SteamOS that I can try because 3.0 is the Steam Deck version. Although, it looks like, literally as I was making this video, that Valve is in the process of opening that up to other devices now. So that's going to be pretty cool, and it's kind of a throwback to what they did initially with these first couple versions of the operating system. But in the meantime, I've installed Windows 10 here so that we can load up Steam and try and play a couple of games on this thing. And I've landed on two titles that we're going to try out, Portal 2 and Watch Dogs, which I don't have on the desktop because I can't actually have both these games installed at the same time because the hard drive is pretty full as it is. We only have 16 gigs left, and Watch Dogs needs almost 18, so we're just barely under the amount of space that we need. So yeah, we're kind of in that predicament of not having a really large hard drive. So Portal 2 came out in 2011, Watch Dogs came out in 2014, and again, this hardware was unveiled in late 2012, so we're kind of sticking to games that were available around the time that you would have been able to purchase this thing. So we'll go ahead and start up Portal 2. And, oh yeah, I don't have any sound device connected to this at all. Let me get something hooked up so we can hear it. Alright, that is a lot better. So, I did also go ahead and up the resolution to 1920 by 1080. I had it on 1280 by 720 before, just to have everything show up a little bit bigger here on camera. But, yeah, we might lower that if it struggles just running, you know, the game at whatever settings that it has here. Now, I think all of these settings, it's just pulled from, like, my Steam Cloud, you know, from running this on my main Windows system. So yeah, everything's pretty high right now. I think we'll just leave it at that and see how it does, but I have a feeling we're going to have to modify that. So let's just see where I was during my last playthrough of this. I don't remember. Okay, well, judging from the Wheatley Laboratories cubes, we probably are towards the end of the game here. Oh yeah, spoilers, by the way, if any of you haven't played Portal 2 yet. Okay, so yeah, this is actually doing quite good. It's a little bit laggy, but I guess we should get like an FPS counter up on screen. Oh yeah, that's not even 30 right now. I mean, there is a fair bit going on. You know, we're right in front of an Emancipation Grill. We've got the light bridges going. Because, yeah, you see, as soon as I look away here, it jumps and it gets close to 60, but not quite. So, let's just try to move up here and just see if we can... Where am I? Oh, I'm, like, already done with this level, I guess. Okay, so we'll just hop in here and move on to the next one. So you see now, of course, we're getting a pretty high, well, we were getting a pretty high frame rate. But it's mostly yellow, it's getting into the red here. So, yeah, let's go and try to lower the video settings and just see. Turn off anti-aliasing. Let's just kind of lower this, I guess, to just the base settings. So like shader detail low, effect detail low, just turn all that there. And got our classic source engine sound loop as it applies the settings. And apply. Let's go back, done. Okay, so that already looks a lot better. You can see the FPS thing up there is mostly green. I see it getting to yellow like every so often for a split second. But it is holding a pretty constant 60 FPS, and, you know, it's getting a little bit above. Of course, we have a VSync on, which will affect that. Like, what if we set these to not as high as they were before? Oh, yeah, that definitely brings it down significantly. You can see. What if we lower the resolution? Well, I didn't really want it to just go into a borderless window, but I guess that's on me, because I do have windowed no border as the display mode. Okay, yeah, that definitely helps. So it's a lot smoother, even on those higher settings. It is able to keep mostly around 60 FPS. Again, you see it getting into the yellow a little bit. And yeah, we are just, you know, moving around here. We've got some things going on, but it's not like the most action-packed scene or anything, you know, where there's like a lot of movement. Alright, now let's try it on the highest setting for everything in 720p. Okay. that is actually doing way better than I thought it would. It's not getting a consistent 60, but it looks like it's getting around 40, up into the 50s, maybe dipping into the 30s a little bit. And of course, if I were just to look like over here, you can see it gets up to 60. It's like in the mid to high 50s, I think. I mean, of course, it is changing pretty rapidly. And just in case anybody was wondering, here is 1920 by 1080 in full screen mode, so no longer a borderless window. And I mean, yeah, you can see that we are mostly hovering around 30 FPS, a little bit below. It does get a little higher than that, but nowhere near 60 FPS, which is not, you know, I've definitely played Portal 2 on worse hardware than this, and, you know, had a worse experience. I would not call this unplayable, but it's definitely, you know, it's not great. So I am curious to see how Watch Dogs performs. I mean, with that being a little bit of a newer game. But I do got to get the thing installed first, which means I need to get Portal 2 off of here. Yeah, it's running here. You can see it's rather laggy, just running around here. I'm curious what settings that we've got on here. So, oh my gosh, there is a bit of menu lag as well as I'm going through here. No, I do not want to load last autosave. Let's go to options, and we're going to go to graphics quality. So, it's set to custom, and it looks like everything is low. So, yeah, all of this stuff is at its lowest settings. What about just display? Okay, here we have anti-aliasing, so I mean, we could try to turn this off. Yeah, I mean, that didn't really do anything, so we can try to lower the resolution. I mean, again, kind of like with Portal 2, this is not unplayable. It's just not going to be a great experience. I mean, we're not running at 60 FPS. We don't have, like, an FPS counter on right now, but this I would say, feels around, you know, 30 FPS, which, hey, I've played many games on 30 FPS on, like, one of my older computers years ago. So, I mean, I kind of got used to playing games like this, so this kind of brings me back a little bit. Okay, here's 1280 by 720. This does feel a little bit better. By the way, I should mention, I do have the proper graphics drivers and everything installed, so it's not like we're using some just basic, you know, display driver. I know that a lot of people, when this game came out, just said that, like, this is GTA with some hacking stuff added in, but I actually liked this game. I thought that it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the storyline, and, you know, I've played through it a few times, so it's definitely one that I would recommend. The newer games, I mean, I've only played Watch Dogs 2. So I've not played any of the ones after that. I think whatever the latest one is didn't get super positive reviews. But yeah, so here it is. You can see, I mean, there's not I'm just kind of trying to find things to say, man. I mean, it just kind of speaks for itself. But yeah, there is running Watch Dogs on our not Steam box. And that, I think, about wraps it up. Oh my gosh, this thing is rather hot. Yeah, that's one thing that I've noticed about this. It does get extremely hot to the touch, to where, I mean, I can put my hand on here, but not for very long. So you can't really move it around a whole lot while it's running. And I feel like you would probably want to turn this thing off every once in a while to give it a break, or just upgrade the cooling in here, because, I mean, yeah, it just gets extremely hot. Yeah, it does stink that the whole Valve collaboration did not end up happening, but at the same time, I think that's really why anybody cared about this thing in the first place, aside from people who already knew about XI3 and were already using this for the kind of industrial application that it was meant for. Like I said earlier, this is really just a fancy Windows system that you'd be paying a lot of money for, especially considering the specifications that this computer has, and it's why that the whole piston thing that they eventually released definitely feels kind of forced to me. Like they just did it feeling like, well, we might as well put this out there anyways, even though that Valve isn't involved anymore. It's not something that I could have recommended back then for gamers, you know, if you wanted to purchase this thing and use it as a game console and play the latest and greatest titles. But yeah, there you have it, guys. That is the Xi3 X7A/Piston almost Steambox thing from 2012/2013. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, definitely be sure to give it a thumbs up, get subscribed, maybe consider becoming a patron or a channel member to get early and sponsor-free access to these videos before anybody else. Speaking of, huge thanks again to boot.dev for sponsoring today's episode. You can check them out down below. But either way, I just want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.